In the West Midlands is the city of Wolverhampton, but its name has got nothing to do with wolves, as in the animal. It's derived from Wolfrun, who founded it in 985. Since then, Wolverhampton has been at the cutting edge of many industrial changes, from the 14th century wool industry to the current aerospace age. I'm in Whitmore, Reans, in the northwest of the city centre.
Well, £20,000 to £25,000 as a guide price for a 3-bedroomed end terrace is pretty low by anybody's standards. So there must be a catch. Not in a very good state. In fact, so bad has this place been fire damaged, we can't actually go in.
OK, so what should we do now, then? Cup of tea, anyone? What's that? Going on the side? Oh, all right, then.
Now, clearly, when it comes to assessing whether or not you should take this project on, properties like this, you just have to assume the worst, I guess. Possibly a structural engineer could help you with the exterior of the building. You're looking at some interesting options here, aren't you? Either try and do up what's there, or knock it down and start again, perhaps? A new build in this place? I don't know. Either way, it's probably not a project for the first time, that, huh?
From a safe distance, it's easy to see that this is essentially just a shell. It's suffered vandalism and fire and water damage. I'm thinking knocking down and starting again, that's an option for this one. But then there's this.
So, just behind the property is this building here, obviously used as a garage or storage. Well, there's the thing, you see, because recently the planning regulations have changed, which means it's a given that you would be allowed to convert this to residential. So suddenly, you've got the property there, you've got this with a reasonable access to it that you could convert into a separate dwelling. That guide price is sounding pretty good to me.
So, with a new possibility on the horizon, I'm sort of thinking differently. Let's regroup. What have we actually got? Well, the auction house isn't entirely certain because of access issues, but they think it's a 2-reception, 3-bed house. And then, of course, there's this garage workshop. As I said earlier, it has and is still suffering from ongoing vandalism, which can be a nuisance and is very disheartening for neighbours in the local community. Possession was taken over by the local council, who are now selling it.
However, there are a few caveats attached to that sale, one of which is that whoever buys it exchanges, pays 10%, but then doesn't complete on the purchase until all the work to get this back into habitable condition has taken place. And there's a time limit of doing that of 12 months. So basically, you buy it, you do it up, and then you pay the rest of your money. Interesting. Again, it's one of those things that it's fine as long as you know about it, but you need to know about it before you buy it.
Someone in the know about this property is an agent from the auction house which sold this lot, guided at £20,000 to £25,000. So what can he tell us about this location?
For a number of years it's been a somewhat downtrodden area. However, the local authorities have modernised a lot of the properties and it's gone through a bit of a renaissance.
Well, whether the same can be done for this house is up for exploration. But first, is demolishing a better option?
It might be a better option to demolish the whole thing. That would, of course, entail building up a party wall for the one that you're coming away from, and then getting planning permission to maybe build a pair of semis in place of the one house.
The agent thinks it might be 150 grand plus demolition costs to build 2 semis here. He thinks they might sell for around £100,000 each, so not a huge amount of room for profit. What if they were to do up the existing structure?
If they were to renovate the property itself, I would imagine that they would likely to achieve in the region of £115,000, £110,000, something like that. But the problem was going to be how much it's going to cost. It's in such a state. The only thing they're going to walk away with is probably the walls. And to be quite honest, looking at them, I would imagine that they'd be very dubious as well.
Well, at first glance, you probably wouldn't touch this auction lot with a barge pole. However, think about it a bit more and suddenly, you know what? I think somebody will have spotted its potential when it went under the hammer.
It's fair to say, if you look at the photograph, that it's in need of a bit of renovation and a bit of refurbishment. I am in receipt of a proxy bid, so let's see if the room can beat the proxy bidder. I'll start it on proxy at £20,000. Can I have 25? 25, who's the first? Do you want 25? 30, is it? 30, 35, 35, 720, do you want 40? 40? 45?
It seems a number of bidders saw the potential in this lot. We rejoined the bidding at 90,000.
90, 95 is that? 95, 95. Do you want to fill it up at 100, sir? 100. 100. You couldn't be further away, sir. At 100. 105, gentlemen? No? Mr. 267 at £100,000. 1, 2, 3.
The successful bidder tucked away at the back was Wayne, who was bidding on behalf of his boss, Jim, who's a landlord whose company owns and runs over 100 rental properties. OK, let's give up trying to see Wayne at the auction. Ah, yes, that's better. Now, Wayne went over his set budget of £80,000 for this very demanding lot. So will he be getting into trouble for spending £100,000 on it? Let's find out.
Wayne, good to meet you.
Hi, Marty, good to meet you.
Congratulations, sort of. Interesting, this really, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and closer inspection is a bit outside our usual league.
When you say closer inspection, how much did you look at it before you bought it?
We drove past.
Oh, so is it better or worse than you thought?
Well, it's obviously a lot more derelict than we expected, but we can work magics with all sorts of properties.
What are you going to do to it?
We are planning to turn it into a 5-bedroom HMO, so a shared house, communal lounge, communal kitchen, and charge rents from maybe £80 a week. And that's how it'll generate its return, and that's why we're not particularly worried about the starting price, because we will get the investment back in the form of rent. Give people a decent standard of living inside a HMO, and you'll keep your tenants for a long time.
For sure. I'm sure the other people on the street will be delighted that the house has finally come to some good use. What do you know about its history?
From the auction pack, it apparently had been just left a rack and ruin. There'd been a fire. The council had either taken over it through compulsory purchase or just adverse possession. We're not really too sure. But we just keep an eye out for an opportunity. We don't worry about what went before, and we step in.
Now, there is a caveat there on the purchase that you have to do it up within 12 months, don't you?
That's right, yeah. That was part of the attraction of buying it. We only needed to pay 10% down, so £10,000 today. Our normal build would probably be 12 to 14 weeks. So we could have this in productive use in less than 3 months, producing money, and then only have to pay the bill in 8 or 9 months' time after that. So, you know, it's a good opportunity.
Why do you think the price went such an astronomically large amount above the guide? Do you think the guide was unrealistic?
Oh, yeah. In this particular case, I estimate there was 1,000 people at the auction, of which 600 people had bidders' paddles. And when this property went above 50,000, the collective gasp in the audience was practically, raised the roof, and people walked away in shock and horror. So I think most of the people there were there from the guide price and expecting to get it cheap. So, yeah, unrealistic. But, and that's why we went a bit mad. It was just so much fever in the room to get the hands on the property, and we thought, well, another £10,000, why not?
When it's done up then, how much do you think it'll be worth?
Well, we'll take it as we work on its investment value. So if we have 5 ensuite rooms at £80 a week, that'll be £400 a week income, £20,000 a year gross. And then what our banks generally do is lend on the basis of a multiple of that 20,000. And if they offer us 8 times that, it'll be worth £160,000, and therefore it'll repay all our investment of the purchase price and the conversion costs. You
go about valuing in a very interesting way there.
Yeah.
What about comparable houses in the area?
Well, that's the strange thing about valuing HMOs, is that generally there won't be a comparable HMO. And the way that the banks like to look at this sort of is a business, and it's a fairly straightforward formula, generally about 7 or 8 times the gross rent per year.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting stuff.
Houses of multiple occupation are quite rightly strictly regulated and licensed by the local authority. And while they can be a lucrative investment, they need to be compliant to ensure tenant safety. Wayne will get some security on the site until his building team are ready to start, and he hopes they will have 5 lettable rooms in the 3 months he mentioned, and for a budget of 80,000. And he's taken an optimistic view on the state of the building.
I've been inside. It's quite manky. Yeah, well, there's better words for it, I'm sure, but no floorboards, no roofs, and you can see out at the sky. It's less work to strip down for our builders.
He may have seen inside, but the thing he did miss on his drive-by viewings was the workshop. So what's the plan for that?
Worst case scenario is we'll probably rent it out for storage, £200 a week, £10,000 a year. Even if you said £100 a week, it's £5,000 a year for doing absolutely nothing.
Congratulations. Good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait to see the difference you make.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes the most, but on the face of it, undesirable properties get the most interest in the auctions, but there's probably a very good reason for that. And certainly Wayne and his team have recognised the potential of this property. What a change we will see, I'm sure, when we return later in the show. Well, buying at auction can be very straightforward, but